Hey guys, I'm just going to walk through a tutorial on the spreadsheet in this video. I had someone who uses the spreadsheet was having issues with US dollar stocks, and we were kind of sorting through that in email. But I think it would actually be a good video just to address for everyone about how to input US dollar stocks and receive dividends, and just talk a little bit about what's going on when you do that to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I currently don't have any US dollar stocks or anything in my account, so this is a good example to show. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through an example where I buy one US dollar stock and then receive a US dollar dividend, and talk about how that affects the portfolio, so to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So looking right now, I've got 134 Canadian dollars of available cash and $0 of US. There's zero account balance or anything like that of US dollars, and we're going to see how the values get affected and make sure we type it in all correctly, because there's actually two ways to do this, and I'm going to go through both ways that you, depending on which broker you use or how your broker operates, there's two different ways that this spreadsheet can capture that kind of transaction. So let's go and buy the stock. Let's say we buy something in NASDAQ. Let's do Solar Edge, and let's say we put in a date, whatever, it doesn't really matter, you just always have to put a date. And let's say we bought one, and let's say we paid $90 US, so that was the price when we bought it. We didn't pay any transactions fees, or if you did, put those in. Now, if you're using Wealthsimple and you didn't exchange for Canadian to US dollars to create a US dollar balance and then buy from the balance, what often happens in Wealthsimple is you'll pay in Canadian dollars, and the currency conversion will happen during the transaction. So you'll pay something in Canadian, but you'll receive a US dollar stock. So if that's the case, then select Canadian here. We'll go through the other example after, but it says here, what currency did you pay with? So if it's this situation where you're paying in Canadian dollars, select Canadian dollars. Okay, there's a little explanation up here kind of talking about it, but I'm just going to actually walk through the whole example here in the video. So once you type Canadian here, but it's for a US dollar stock, the spreadsheet will highlight this and say attention. And then over here, it's going to say, it looks like you paid Canadian dollars for this US stock. You need to override the cell, the highlighted cell, which is this one that says attention, with the amount of CAD that you paid. Don't double count the trading fee, and see note in cell N1 for example. So there's a little bit more information up here. Actually, I should say M1, but anyways, there's always like little helper blurbs up here. But what we're going to do is, like as it says, we're going to put the amount of Canadian that we paid. So let's say that during that transaction, Wealthsimple will actually tell you how much Canadian you're going to pay for this, for the US dollar stock. So let's say that value was 120. That would be in like the sales receipt of the stock. We've typed this in, and anytime you're overriding something that's in a white cell, there used to be a formula there, and now you've put in your own stuff. So I really strongly recommend changing the font color, or maybe even highlighting the background of the cell, just to know that that's no longer a standard formula. This is important because in the future, if I release an upgraded updated version of the sheet and you have customizations like this, your customizations won't be in the new copy, and so you would have to go and find those customizations and bring them in kind of manually, which is just protection for you in the future in case there is a new version, which at some point there might be. So anyways, we've got this in, and everything in here is working properly. It's looking good so far. So the next thing that you would do is you would go to the portfolio tab, and you would indicate that you have a new position here. So you'd write NASDAQ Sedge, and don't mind this. This is just like a watch list that I have. I can delete that for now. So NASDAQ Sedge, you'd put in your sector and whatever else you want to do. But let's look at this. So we have one in the portfolio. It's in US dollars. We paid $90 average price US, and the current price is $99 US dollars. And so we would, in this situation, we would be up about 10.71% or $9.64. And when we come over here and we look at the all-in performance, that would match the unrealized gain, because we haven't received any dividends or we haven't had any realized gains or losses yet. Okay, so that's working perfectly. When we look at the summary tab, before we had about $134 in Canadian cash, but we spent 120. So this was reduced by 120. The US dollar cash was unaffected because we never actually exchanged like an amount of money into US dollars into our balance and then bought from that. That never happened. So we shouldn't have any US dollar cash left over. But now, before where this was all zero, now we have some of our account balance in US dollars because we have one single stock that's worth $99.64, which we can see here on the portfolio, the current value $99.64. So that is great. And then the CAD equivalent, this dropped all of these values, or all of these values like updated a little bit. These would be like the Canadian sum here plus this value converted to Canadian dollars equals that. You can toggle between this if you want. If you're using US dollar stocks a lot, or if you're primarily using US, you might want to leave that set to US equivalent. But because I only deal personally with Canadian stocks at the moment, I just always leave that. All right, so you shouldn't be seeing like negative values in here ever in cash or in your portfolio. There should never be negative like current values or stuff like that. If you have that, there's likely an issue. But if you kind of went through, if you're using Wealthsimple and this was the method of currency conversion during transaction, then you shouldn't experience any issues. Okay, let's say that we now receive a dividend from this company. So we would type in NASDAQ SEDG, put in some date, whatever date you received it on, and let's say we got $100 dividend. And this company, because it's NASDAQ, it would be paying in US dollars, so make sure you select USD. Now on the portfolio tab, when we come through here and we look, the unrealized gain loss hasn't changed as expected. And we've received $100 dividends, and so now we'd actually look and see that our all-in performance would be the combination of that dividend plus the unrealized gain loss. So that's good in here. We're not seeing any like numbers that look wildly wrong. It's what we expect. And then on the summary page, you can see here, because we received $100 US dividend, that means there's $100 US coming into our account. So the cash before was $0. But now we've received $100 US cash. Now, if for some reason your broker, you get paid in like Canadian dollars from US dollar stock, I'm not sure, then you would have to reflect that here by selecting Canadian, but I'm pretty sure a US dollar stock would be paying US dollar cash. Actually, I think it depends on the kind of Wealthsimple account you have. Like mine, I can hold US dollar balance. I'm not sure if everyone can. Anyways, whatever currency they give you the dividend in, just type in the one that you've received it in. Okay, so that's how you do it in the first way. Let's just delete all of this stuff, and I'm going to walk you through the second way that you might be inputting US dollar dividends, US dollar stocks. So I'll just remove this for now, and I'm going to override that formula again, reset it. So now instead of that saying 120, it's been reset to the formula that should be there. All right. So we're back at the beginning. If we check the summary page, we have $0. We don't have any US dollar stuff in here, and we're going to start over. So in the transactions tab, we would say we're going to buy one. Actually, let's not get to this. For this transaction, what we want to do is we want to use a US dollar balance that we have in the account. So, for example, if you're using Questrade, or if you're using like Wealthsimple Premium, I think it's called, you would have $134 in Canadian cash, but you want to convert this to US dollars first. So what we would do is you would do that in your broker. You would make the conversion in whatever screen of your broker, but you'd have to record that here in the spreadsheet. So let's say that we put in 120 Canadian dollars, and we received, let's say we received 91 US dollars. So this would be what's going on in your in your broker. You give a certain amount of currency and you get a certain amount of a different currency. So if you're trading CAD for US dollars, just put in whatever they've given you. So now that would be reflected in the summary tab. So you've put in, you've spent 120, so that the CAD balance has dropped, and now your US dollar balance has gone from 0 up to $91 or US dollars or whatever that value is that you got. And then now what you want to do is you go buy the stock, and you know the stock is $90. We're going to say that that's what you paid. So you paid 90 US dollars and no transaction fees, but in this case you're using your US dollar balance. So we're going to select USD, and it's going to say, look here, value of stocks purchased, $90. Cool. All this stuff is in US dollars now. And when we come back to the summary page, now we can see here, actually it's already in the transaction. You would add it here in the portfolio tab, and again you'd scan this to make sure that nothing looks horrendously wrong. There's no negative values. It's in US dollars. Average price is $90, but the current price is a little bit more than that. Good deal for us. And then all the same stuff here. So when you look in the summary page now, if this is the way that you're buying US dollar stocks, then you can see here that the CAD cash that you had dropped by $120 when you bought the US dollar currency, or you made the currency exchange, which you then received that $91. And then you went and you bought a $90 stock with that US dollars, and so you still have $1 of cash left over because you have a balance of $1 US dollars that you just didn't use. And then we had that stock, and the stock value has, since you bought it, has gone up to $100, and so our US balance is sitting at $101.20. It's the value of the stocks plus the value of your cash. Again, no negative values in here, and it's good to check. If you have negative values, then you've probably not done it exactly with the steps kind of that I've shown here, and hopefully they make sense. And then again, if you received a dividend for that stock, let's put it in here one more time. NASDAQ Sedge, December 15th, 2023, and let's say you get that $100 US dollar stock, US dollar dividend. And then when we come back to let's look at the portfolio tab again. Unrealized gain hasn't changed, but you have, as expected, you've received $100 in dividends, so your all-in performance has gone up. And then on the summary page, again, you have $101 cash, because you had $1 of US cash in your account after you bought the stock, but then you receive $100 from the dividend, and so your cash would be at $101. And then your stock value is still the same, and your total account, your US cash balance is your US account balance has been reflected as well. And again, here the CAD equivalent is just the sum of this plus the Canadian exchanged version of that for all of these values. You can keep going with that if you want. So if you are buying another one, let's say we buy another one for another $90. And we paid from that out of our US dollar balance. So all of this is going to be the same. Again, then we'd come in here, we'd see our cash, our US dollar cash has gone down now, but our stock value has gone up. And there you go. So it really depends it depends on the broker that you're using, whether you're paying in Canadian dollars and that transaction, that currency exchange is happening during the transaction, or if you're exchanging money beforehand, then you would be needing to log that here in the Convert Money tab, and then everything should work properly. So for everyone who is using US dollar stocks, which I think is actually a lot of you guys, hopefully you have been doing it correctly, or if you've been having some issues, then hopefully this video helps.